right, so we know that as regional ambassadors, you often have certain fundraising needs to run Technovation in your communities. Some of these needs include hosting a regional pitch event, space for program meetings, prizes for the regional pitch event, and materials, which include all of your technology needs for the program. So throughout today's webinar, we'll address the following aspects of the fundraising process. These include stakeholder mapping, prospect research, email outreach, setting up the meeting and relationship building, as well as support from our end here at Iridescent. So Katie is now going to introduce you to stakeholder mapping to best determine who will be impacted by your project.
So stakeholder mapping is really the first step in the fundraising process to identify those who have the most power and influence and the resources to help you with your program and funding it. A stakeholder is a person, business, or organization who has an interest in your program and also might be impacted by what you do. So to figure out who your stakeholders are, you need to ask yourself who's going to use the product or service that you're creating, who has the ability to make decisions, and who has the ability to give or take away resources from your program. And in order to identify all your potential stakeholders, you really want to take this time to brainstorm 3 potential buckets: the private sector, public sector, and civil society. So, for example, in the private sector, this would include corporations and businesses, individual business leaders, banks, etc. The public sector, those would be your government officials, local councils, international bodies like World Bank and the UN, USAID. And then for civil society, that would include your churches, media, schools and university, and local and international NGOs. Then you would want to map out your different stakeholders on what's called a stakeholder matrix, influence matrix. So you'd want to identify who has a high degree of influence and power, who would be most interested in Technovation and also have the ability to fund the program. You would place this organization or these groups of organizations in the upper right-hand corner. Then you'd want to look at maybe who has a lot of resources, who has a lot of power, but may have a low interest in the program for whatever reason. And these organizations would be placed in the upper left-hand corner. And they could be convinced to support Technovation if you made a compelling case for how it benefits them. In the bottom right-hand corner, these would be organizations that have a lot of interest in your program but may not have a lot of influence. So perhaps these are your partner organizations. These could be universities or NGOs that may not have a lot of resources to help you financially, but could provide a great source of volunteers or be willing to go together with you on a jointly funded program. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, these are organizations where you probably would not have a high chance of being funded. They don't have a lot of interest in your program. These are your low priority organizations who you should not spend a lot of time on. So once you've done your stakeholder mapping exercise, you would move on to prospect research.
So prospect research is the first step in the fundraising process. It's going to tell you what organizations and companies align with Technovation and help you decide where to focus your efforts and time. It's a technique fundraisers use to better understand potential donors, corporations' backgrounds, their giving histories, their size, and their philanthropic motivations. This information will help you evaluate their ability to give and how likely they would be to give to your organization. You don't want to waste your time trying to build a relationship with a corporation or foundation if their giving priorities do not match with your program or the likelihood is extremely low for getting funding. Now, if you don't know where to begin, you can try searching K-12 STEM education grants in your country using Google News or set up Google Alerts on your computer. You can also look at press releases to find out in the news for recent grants that have been given in your local community. You can also look at websites of similar NGOs in your country and which companies they partner with, and you can research the companies your mentors work for. You can also try searching on LinkedIn for people whose job title is corporate social responsibility, philanthropy, or community involvement. Now, once you find a specific company to research, you need to gather the following information on the company. This can include revenue, competitors, strategic priorities, And then in foundation and grants, what's their average award size, when are their deadlines, and who are their previous grantees. You also want to see if they have a corporate social responsibility strategy. Do they have one? What are their giving priorities? Do they have an individual whose job is solely for CSR? Then you want to take a look at employee engagement and diversity and inclusion efforts. Now, do they have a training program in place for their employees? Do they engage their employees as volunteers? And if so, what kinds of volunteer activities do their employees participate in? Are they specifically dedicated to increasing women and minorities in the workforce? Then you need to find the right person. And generally you want to find people who are in CSR, human resources, community involvement, or communication roles and hold a mid-level position. If you contact the president or of the foundation or a senior VP, they will most likely not respond. And if you contact people who are entry level, which are assistants, coordinators, etc., they do not have decision-making power and are also not the best person to get in contact with. People who are directors, managers, or heads of their department are the best people to put your time and effort into outreaching to within the company because you'll have a better response rate and can also champion your cause.
So now that you've identified a person within the company to contact, it's time to send that email outreach. And first you need to decide if your point of contact is warm or cold. So warm contact is someone that you've been virtually introduced to, that you've met before or have a relationship with. And a cold contact is someone who's a stranger or you've never communicated before and you don't have an existing relationship with them. So I'm going to show you an example email for how you could structure a Technovation outreach email. So first you would want to lead with a warm hook. This is what's going to get them to continue reading your email. So if you have met them before, you could say it was wonderful getting a chance to meet you, or I really enjoyed hearing about your experiences about X, Y, and Z, or mention the person who introduced you. If it's a cold email, you could look up recent news about that organization and relate it back to Technovation. So congratulations on your new technology innovation. It sounds really exciting. Here at Technovation, this is how we're inspiring girls in tech. And that's when you would talk about Technovation. Now, all this sample email is included in a fund development tips and toolkit, which we'll give you at the end of this call. And it's also included in your material section on your go-to training panel right over here. And then we want you to customize this so that it's very specific to your community. So this is an American outreach email. So we mentioned that 2 of our girls presented at the White House Science Fair a few weeks ago. This was an email sent in April. And then if this was, for example, Brazil, you could talk about how many girls have participated, awards that they've won, and what they've been doing in the community, highlight some press that you've received, things like that. So now Carla's gonna, and just so you know, you should keep it brief, between 100 and 200 words, and make sure to add images, links to videos, pertinent articles, etc. in the email so that they have a few extra things to look at and they know the context of Technovation. But now I'm going to hand it over to Carla so that she can talk about building that relationship.
Great. You got a meeting with one of your prospects. Now what? You need to make sure you come prepared. You need to know the facts about Technovation, for example, how many girls we have served globally, and specific impact data for your region, so you can demonstrate the power and benefits of Technovation in your community. During the meeting, you will want to share this Technovation background, our mission, vision, and values, and you will want to share local poverty facts, examples of apps, and student success stories. Make sure you keep the conversation focused on the potential funder. Ask questions about their needs, challenges, strategic goals, giving strategy, examples of successful projects, and how they engage employees. Try and do 80% of the listening and 20% of the talking. Your goal for this meeting is to secure another meeting. If this is the first conversation you're having, you don't want to push too hard for funding. In fact, don't ask them for funding at all at this stage. Your goal is to secure another meeting. If the meeting goes well, they may ask you for further information they can pass along to their colleagues and introduce you to more contacts. At the end of the meeting, make sure you clearly state the agreed upon next steps, whether it is to share some additional information via email, connect with another person in the organization, or set up another meeting. You want to also be sure to offer to engage their employees as mentors and do a lunch and learn session to teach their employees about volunteer opportunities through Technovation. After you have left the meeting, you want to be sure to send a follow-up thanking them, along with additional information such as our About Technovation booklet. Now, if they seem unresponsive after your first follow-up email, try touching back within 1 to 2 weeks. Now, if they are still unresponsive, you want to stay engaged with your contact through providing updates every 1 to 2 months. Tara, our CEO, sent updates every few months to the head of a foundation at a major software company and never heard anything for many years. After years of doing this, the company randomly emailed us to say that we received a $20,000 grant in celebration of their anniversary. It turns out that the head of the foundation had been passing along our emails to the SVP of Human Resources and the CEO. Moral of the story, don't give up and be brave. Now Katie's going to take you through some examples of other relationship building.
So another example of how a potential funder could become interested in Technovation is through events. Oftentimes, invitations to events serve as a hook for people. They really enjoy being invited to something special. So this year we invited contacts from HR departments, human resources, and philanthropy divisions of companies to our World Pitch event. And one of our contacts who we invited, she loved attending it so much that she followed up with us afterwards and was interested in engaging employees as mentors and connecting us with their foundation staff. So we had a meeting with their foundation staff, and now they're interested in funding operations in the Bay Area. So in your case, a kickoff launch event or another event where girls come together and brainstorm app ideas, that could serve as a really great way to hook potential funders if you invite them and tell them what's going on and offer them that invitation to attend.
So this next slide highlights a few key points to keep in mind as you're embarking on your fundraising initiatives. You're going to want to lead with a personal hook in emails. This will help catch the prospect's interest and help them relate to you through your story. You want to come prepared with research and facts, and remember to listen more than you talk. This will help you gather as much information as possible about your prospect that may not be available through their website or come up in your prospect research. Hearing personally from the prospect what their interests are and their metrics of success will better inform your strategy and follow-up pitch. Be clear on the benefits to the funder when you're following up. And one last point to remember regarding your follow-ups is to try to avoid being too pushy. Sometimes it can be frustrating to not hear back from a potential funder, but it is even more important to not irritate them. Over-communication can be just as damaging. Now Katie will take you through the support we can provide from our end to help you be successful in your fundraising efforts.
So first on our end, we're going to provide you with a comprehensive set of outreach materials which you can use for recruiting and engaging mentors and students within your community, and just general publications that can help you promote our program. So we're also going to send you this link to this Google Drive folder, and you should have it in your materials section on your go-to training panel. So I'll just show you a few different examples within this Google Drive folder. We have flyer recruitment for mentors. We have a flyer recruitment tool for students. And I really like to send this Technovation for Professionals brochure to companies who may be interested in engaging their employees as mentors. Shows really a lot about how our program benefits the mentors in their own professional development. And also, if you are using our logo, we do have some brand guidelines which would be important for you to look over just to make sure that we're all on the same page with using our materials. So lots of things to look over in this folder, which you will definitely receive. We'll also provide you with that fundraising toolkit, which I mentioned, which will include a sample proposal, tips and tricks, and that sample outreach email that I showed you. We have a fund development Slack channel, which we'll invite you to join. And we'll also host bi-monthly fund development webinars about topics that are important to you. This one is meant to just give an overview of how to just start the fundraising process if you haven't done it before. But if there are certain topics that you'd like to delve into more, we can definitely do that. Then we'll also provide you with email support with answering the questions that you have. So in return for our support, we ask you that you recruit girls and mentors to the program, that you host regional pitch events, that you send a team and a mentor to the World Summit and fundraise for that, and then that you also collect and send back data so that we're really able to keep up with operations and know what's going on around the world on the ground. So with that being said, I just want to thank you for joining. You are soldiers on the front line who are the ones that's making Technovation happen in 87 countries around the world. So we really do appreciate you, and I just want to say that at the closing of our webinar to let you know how much we appreciate you for all that you do and that you will be doing this season for us. So what questions would you have for us? We'd be more than happy to answer them. Let's take a look at the chat box. All right, seems a little bit quiet on that end. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Oh, thank you, Jinan. Thanks, Amal. Madhvi, I think, is going to jump on really quick.
Yeah, so I just generally, I know Katie and Carl has given us a very great overview, and I guess some of you might have been involved in fundraising previously. So we would love to hear if there are any challenges that you have faced previously. Perhaps you've gone to sponsors like, I'm not interested, or like any kind of negative response that you have gotten, or anything that you have found challenging so far. You can share that as well, and perhaps Katie and Carla can jump in and suggest any tips around that if you don't have particular questions around the materials that they shared, or if you can share any successful tip as well of what might have worked. So Devin has a question which says, can you connect organizations in a similar geographic region to potentially fundraise jointly? Yes, we can, but there needs to be a little bit of background research on that. It's just like trying to understand that the organizations are like mission aligned and they want to like offer the same program. So we would be very open to that. But as I said, there needs to be a little bit of background research on which are the organizations and what's going to be the larger fundraising ask, because it should be something that these organizations are willing to do it to across countries. So we are open to that. You can ping me. I guess all of you have my email. So if you have next steps like this, Devin, we can obviously discuss this and then we can share it out with larger team. Anything else? Any other questions? Any tips?
So Mel said that I think it's very important to give examples of supporters in different countries, which is how they were able to connect with a telecommunications company. And I think that's a great point, and that's what we'll be doing with the Slack channel, giving out different examples of corporations who might be willing to fund you in your communities, examples of other nonprofit partners who we think could be helpful. That's what we do internally on our own fund development Slack channel, and that's what we want to be able to share with you as well.
And just to add, this I've heard from other RAs, and I guess Kay and Carl have already mentioned this, but just one more point to add. I realized historically some of our RAs have been able to raise a lot of funds when they have gone to sponsors with a very specific ask. Like just saying like support Technovation program, like say in Tunisia or in Nigeria, it doesn't resonate so much with the funder. So if you come up with a specific project that they could support, perhaps like support 50 girls in Tunis or in Cape Town or something like that, or give us funding to send one team or like, I don't know, one or two teams, whatever you want to say, to the World Pitch Summit and then list what are the benefits of the World Pitch Summit, what's going to come out of them. Perhaps say that, like their visit would be branded as like, that company's visiting team from Tunisia, Nigeria to San Francisco. So I would say try, depending on what kind of interactions you're having. I have seen historically that RAs have been very successful when they have gone up with specific projects within the program rather than just like, support Technovation. Like that becomes like that doesn't have a very strong hook around it. So perhaps you can create smaller projects that funders can support. And one more thing, and I guess many of you are already doing that. One thing to understand, like Carla said, like when you're meeting initially, it's not like you go and ask for money, and it's a part of relationship building. There is a lot of in-kind asks, and I know RAs know that better than I do. You need a lot of in-kind support. You need spaces for hosting like a launch workshop or like even a regional pitch event. You might think that they're not giving you money, but this is a good start for relationship building. You can go in, you can host sessions there, and when they actually see the girls come in and pitch, that stays with them for longer. And when in the following season you have a conversation with them about fundraising, that helps to make a better connection than just like proposals on paper. So I would say that keep asking for like in-kind support, whether that's a space, whether it's their mentor engagement pieces, and gradually that relationship will lead you to a place where they will be more willing to give you money and support you financially. So those are quick thoughts based on like my working with RAs for like over 2 years. But we would love to hear if you have any other questions. And as Katie and Carla said, we'll add you to the fundraising Slack channel. We would also love to hear from you of what's working for you on the ground. It's very important that you share that with the rest of the RAs as well, because we are also bringing in a vision from here, but we would love to hear and learn from you. And all the materials that you saw here, we will be sending that out in the weekly RA emails next week. So you will also have access to that as well. And finally, I had one more thing that I wanted to add, which I'm blanking out on now. But any other questions, suggestions, anything that you think we can help with or support at this point?
Okay.
And we'll have a recording of this. Okay, so that is what I wanted to say. This version is recorded. So we'll have a recording of this, and I'll share the recording on our RA Slack channel in our weekly emails as well.
Great.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Be expecting an email from us soon.